Good evening. In tonight's news, the U.S. embassies are on terror alert. NSA leaker Snowden goes red. Italy's highest court convicts the ultimate Don. Trains continue to derail in Europe. And in local news, the Eagles' Riley Cooper goes cracker crazy. City buildings continue to fall, and Monco goes homo. These stories and more on tonight's edition of the I'm Only Serious Sunday Paper program.
It's the I'm Only Serious News Network with Dan Mahan,
Cynthia Stormy Haskins.
In national news, just when Congress was getting set to put some limits on the NSA issued a global terror alert to 22 U.S. embassies. Agency spokesman Hugh U. Kidding stated, "This is only temporary, unless of course Congress decides to make changes." The half-man responsible for outing the NSA and its collection of info has just been granted asylum in Russia, so long as he stops telling U.S. secrets. This led Webster's Online to add a new word, Snowden, with an I, to their dictionary, which is Russian for bullshit. Example, we sure snowed them dumbass Americans, didn't we? Cracker, please. Of course, this is not to be confused with the American snowed in with an E, which still means punk here in the U.S. Italy's Supreme Court of Cassation, its highest court in the land, has found its former premier, Silvio Berlusconi, guilty of tax fraud and sentenced him to 4 years in prison. He will likely only serve 1 year of house arrest, which is quite different from when during the days of the earlier court in the Roman times it was the court of castration. You see what I'm saying? Cracker, please. More news from Europe. Trains have been crashing left and right as of late. The latest tragic accident occurred in Spain, where a speeding train derailed on a bend in the tracks, killing several people and injuring dozens more. The train was moving at twice the speed allowed for that section of track prior to the crash. It was noted that the conductor was distracted on the cell phone leading up to the crash. He was talking to a passenger who was asking him to slow the hell down. Cracker, please. The Supreme Court has just ruled that California must release 10,000 prisoners due to overcrowding. The state has made arrangements to bust them all back to Mexico, where they can be free again, to come back to the USA, and to get put back in prison again. That's how we go around here. The Bulls will be running stateside this year, as several American cities will be hosting a bull run. Not to be confused with Spain's running of the bulls, mind you. Well, that's Spanish. Comprende. The first event will be run at a drag racing strip in Richmond, Virginia. Go figure. Followed by Atlanta, Florida, and Texas. We at iOS News noticed a trend in the locations below the Mason-Dixon line and at a racetrack. There is one show scheduled for Pennsylvania, however, which between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is considered Alabama anyhow. So there you go. That's the same people. In Washington, 3 Somalian pirates were sentenced to life in prison for the shooting deaths of 4 Americans in a 2011 boat jacking off the coast of East Africa. Their leader, Captain Black Sparrow, had this to say as he was being led away. Remember, this is the day that Captain Black Sparrow was led away to the gallows. Cracker, please, end the scene. Also in the U.S., Ariel Castro, the man who had 3 women captive for over a decade, pleaded guilty to all his charges with a but. Like, sure, I picked up young girls, but I did it without candy or puppies. Or the other one he'd like to use. Sure, I kept them locked up for a decade, but they never asked for bus fare home. Cracker, please. iOS News has learned that he's preparing to ask for conjugal visits and the key to the unused boiler room. There, go figure. With some entertainment news tonight, we turn to our co-hosts of the evening, Stormy.
Dan, I'm afraid it's not looking good for everybody. Hello out there. Not to be the bearer of bad news, but when it comes to Amanda Bynes, I'm happy I'm here for you as a nation. This is because of her father. He wanted to be a comedian. He pushed her into the spotlight, and now he shoved her in a cage. And that's where she is, folks. Dan?
Thank you, Cynthia. That sure cleared things up for me. With more entertainment news, we're going to have a movie review by our correspondent, Tony Viejo. Tony?
Thanks, Dan. And now introducing the I'm Only Serious Film of the Week. This week, the good people at the I'm Only Serious Studios have asked me to talk about the movie Halloween. And that's John Carpenter's Halloween, not Rob Zombie's Halloween. And the thing I like about this movie is two things. One, in this day and age, it probably would have gotten away with a PG rating. But it's still suspenseful and it's still visceral. However, it doesn't have to rely on the gore factor for anything. Everything in it is just left to your imagination, and that's what's great about this movie. It's actually an all-star cast. It has Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and Donald Pleasence, who was in a lot of James Bond films. Who was in the first James Bond movie. He was the first Bond villain. So, there you go. He was also in John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Check out this movie. You're gonna enjoy it. Don't wait for Halloween time. Watch it now. Watch it this week. Then when Halloween comes around, you'll be the guy at the party going, oh yeah, Halloween, John Carpenter, Michael Myers, oh yeah, I know everything. All right, this has been the I'm Only Serious News Film of the Week. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Tony, for a season-appropriate review. Back to the news. Locally in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, home of the iOS News team, it is the first county in Pennsylvania to start issuing same-sex marriage licenses. The state is trying to stop the county from issuing such licenses since it's against state law. iOS News tried to reach Governor Corbett for an interview, but his spokesman Mark Browneye, stated the governor will not be coming out of the closet anytime soon. In Philadelphia, buildings continue to fall as a gas explosion leveled one home completely and severely damaged two others. 1 week after the city's L9 inspectors gave the work a thumbs up. The guilty person in this accident is another contractor who had nothing to do with the actual problem. You know what I'm talking about, Philly. Mayor Nutter Butter Peanut Butter stated, "This town's sure gone crazy." In sports, baseball is set to punish those players who took illegal substances to enhance their performance on the field. The list of players include the Yankees' 38-year-old Alex Rodriguez, who's set to get the longest suspension ever, possibly 2 years. Of course, he will continue to get his $28 million a year salary for the next 5 years. Another player recently suspended for the same case is Ryan Braun of the Milwaukee Brewers, who was suspended for the remaining 65 games of this year and a loss of about $4.5 million in salary. Ooh. Lucky for him, he'll be starting next year off with his new $25 million a year, 5-year contract. So please, let this be a lesson for all players. Don't do steroids. Unless, of course, it's your contract year. Then eat up. Meanwhile, our hometown Phillies continue to play like they're the only team not on steroids in Major League Baseball. Cracker, please. In Sixers news, they still haven't done nothing stupid. But season ticket holders for the Phillies have started a new group, folks, called Foster, which stands for Fans Organized for Steroid Treatment in Entertaining Returns. I'm a member. This just in, folks, from my Twitter account. Apparently the train crash in Spain, the conductor was not talking to a passenger, rather he was receiving a text from Anthony Weiner. Calls anybody to crash behind the wheel. Back to sports. The Eagles are in national news thanks to wide receiver Riley Cooper and his recorded use of the N-word. And we don't mean neighbor. Cracker, please. Hanging with Mr. Cooper is not for the faint of heart, folks, or black folks apparently. As Riley yelled at the lone black man working at a redneck concert, "I'll kick all you neighbors' asses." Really, tough guy? Mr. Cooper has been released from team activities to enter a sensitivity training program. Now, iOS News has gone behind the scenes, folks, and has an exclusive on what type of training Mr. Cooper can expect to receive. First, they're going to send him down to Georgia to pick cotton all day in the hot sun while some son of a bitch cracks him with a whip. Next, he'll have to take the back seat on the bus trip all the way back to Philadelphia, where he'll be sprayed with fire hoses across the stadium parking lot for an extended period of time. And of course, we'll have Michael Vick sicking his dogs on him during that period. He'll then do a 3-round sparring session with Philly's own Bernard Hopkins. There you go. And he'll get to repeat then, for his final test, the same dumbass line at the upcoming Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z concert. The team believes he'll be more sensitive at the conclusion of this rehab, and so do I. Done?
Coming to you from the I'm Only Series editing studios, this is Tony Viejo, and this is my Misled Thoughts. My Misled Thought this week has to deal with CCD, talking about colony collapse disorder. It's a thing that's going on with honeybees recently, where a lot of them can't find their way home, can't find their way back to the hive. And I try my best to be nice and kind to this earth, and I think we all do. But when you look at the natural remedies on how to get rid of weeds and insects and other things like that, it just doesn't work. And we have to resort to the biological warfare of buying the good priced, weed killers and insecticides and all those things to destroy the pests in our gardens and around our house. But unfortunately, now we're killing off the honeybees. We didn't even realize it. How do we prevent this? I do not know. But on the plus side, bumblebees are expanding in size at a rapid rate. So soon, honeybees are going to die off, and we're going to have gigantic bumblebees just walking around the street. I think it's a win-win for the bee population. I'm Tony Viejo. This has been my Misled Thought.
In other news, clear skies tonight, everyone. The heat wave has finally expired. Let's get down to business tonight, folks. I got pulled over on the way here. And am I right, or is there no right weather for that? There isn't. Come on. We had absolutely clear skies today. We hit 80 degrees each day this week. You guys owe me some money. You know who you are. 2010, approximately 1.6 million Americans were experiencing homelessness. As far as I'm concerned, now's a great time to do it, folks. Step outside. Smell that air. Roll around in that dirt. It's dry air. Imagine what that dirt feels like. Rest of the week, clear. Dan?
Thank you, Stormy. That cleared things up for us. Well, thanks again, folks, for listening to this edition of the iOS News, brought to you, as always, by the inspirations from the Philadelphia Inquirer, a paper you can have delivered right to your front door. Where? Here. Ah, thank you. The Inquirer, or somewhere thereabouts. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook, where you can order some of these great shirts. Stormy?
Oh my God, this is the most comfortable shirt I've ever had. Ugh.
They're pretty shrunk. That's why. That's probably why.
I can tell.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week for our next edition of the I'm Only Serious Sunday Paper Program.